new market. The city's waking up, and so are the charts. Every move on this screen has a story. Sometimes it's hype, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's nothing at all. But if you look close enough, you'll see the rhythm behind it. No drama, no magic, just patterns, pressure, and people trying to make sense of it all. So let's take a look at where we're at and where this thing might go.
What up, MK? How are you doing, sir? We've only got... I don't know if my stream is updating. This is much earlier than normal. But I have time now, so... let's... talk about it. We'll wait a few more seconds. Hardly anyone's in here right now, but that's okay. I'll post this in the market Litecoin chat. All right, a few people joining. I just posted it. This was what wave basis was calling for, whether you count it from the recent lows or just off of this low. It's giving the same count. It has been the same since I started streaming about a month ago. Could be bottoming here. I think you need like a few more days at least to really gain any confidence, but if this really is this nested 1-2 structure like I've been talking about forever, then we are so close to the major high time frame expansion. You know, again, this was the moment of truth for me. We were talking about how Bitcoin is likely to close the CME gap. And either we're going to reverse from here as initial 1-2 off the lows, or this is like an ABC correction with one more lower low before what I think is inevitable expansion. So same idea with Litecoin. There really wasn't that much leverage to liquidate. I mean, open interest wasn't extreme. The pullback here off the highs Even though we had the most significant liquidation event in crypto in a long time, price didn't move down, you know, as significantly as before. So still a relatively mild correction so far, which I think is bullish. Just calling the exact reversal moment is tough. Trying to level up your manufacturing skills. Oh, cool. That's smart. What do you think of... Where's the 3D printing space at? Where is it going? I always thought that was super interesting, but I haven't been paying attention to that space in a long time. I think a lot of these decentralized business models can naturally start to compete with centralized, traditionally centralized companies like food production. I know vertical farming is getting more cost competitive, even though not many people are paying attention to it. Same with 3D printing, I'd imagine, for certain things. And the same will be true for decentralized money. Especially when the realized cost, or the real cost of using the fiat money starts to be felt in the money itself. You'll get the opposite effect at some point, where instead of feeling richer on paper by all the inflation going to financial assets, it'll come out and go into real stuff. And so I think decentralized money has is the biggest opportunity ever, probably, in human history. But yeah, that's cool, MK. I'm super interested in that space. Maybe you can teach me. We're at the previous area where price has found support. This is what we were talking about as a potential possibility over the previous streams. I still was leaning bullish because of the front running of ETFs. I mean, so was Tony the Bull. Same sort of feeling. It's hard not to be bullish after max compression for 3 years with all of these bullish catalysts coming, but Litecoin's just lacking on the demand side right now. This volume is contracting. All Litecoin needs is a relative breakout. It takes far less money to move Litecoin than anything else, and it has such a stronger fundamental case than every other proof of work money, right? Because it's lower value or lower market cap than its main competitors, but it has a 20x lead that's likely to become greater over time than the main competitors, which are Doge and Bitcoin Cash. The Bitcoin Cash trading at over 30% premium to Litecoin, despite Litecoin having a 20x lead over BCH. What's crazy to me, and Novogratz is actually finally coming around, saying that this is a narrative-driven space and it's about to evolve into a utility-driven space. And that's true. What's the name of this music? Oh, I made it. I didn't give titles for all of this ambient music. I can release it on my channel if you like it. If you want to just I can put it on YouTube Music or Apple Music under an ambient playlist track or album. But yeah, a lot of people, I've noticed a lot of people like these ambient tracks. So I can do that. I was waiting for more people to come in here to talk about the price action, because I don't want to say the same thing 10 times. But if this is right, this like automatic Elliott wave count from wave basis, which it did call for this pullback. If the low is in here, which it's saying it could be, this still could be technically a running flat correction. I would put the wave 5 here and this A, B, C. But regardless, if this is correct, then finally we get Litecoin's wave 3. And once this starts, it should be extremely quick move. It's been so rough. Cycle's been the hardest, and I think probably we're gonna get rid of the talk of cycles at some point. What's up, Nick? You like to play this when we're at all-time high? I mean, I can play whatever people are requesting. Whatever's the most popular music, I will just put together a playlist. I have a bunch of stuff that I haven't released, like price-related music, EDM hype, style music, a lot. I'm trying to save it. What are you doing, Nick? Are you back from Oregon yet? Maybe that's the sign that we're gonna head higher. This has been so hard. We were on a 12-hour TD9, I think, for the most of the crypto market, and they have these 12-hour TD9s have been relatively accurate. Called the temporary top here, right here. Called the bottom a few times before expansion, back in late 2024. Say hi. Decent probability. It's always hard to know, like, one day after this liquidation move, if this is the bottom or not. What do you think, Nick? You think this is bottoming right now? Litecoin ran into this. See, it wicked down into this area that it's wicked down into before reversing. On the Bitcoin pairing. Oh, I see. So it was like just slightly smaller range. You were thinking we'd rally first to 119. For BTC. Thinking this inverse head and shoulders might play out. These whale alerts were pretty interesting. Like a lot of movement in altcoins, a lot of movement in general. But there was 2 million Litecoin moved. I don't know if that was an internal transfer on Binance or what, but most Litecoin I've ever seen moved is like a few 100,000. You had $200 million worth of Doge move around, and where's the LTC transaction? Basically 150 million of BCH moved around, 400 million Cardano moved around, 2 million Litecoin. I used to pay attention to this way more, like back in like 2018 through 2020, and this is semi-similar. There's a ton of Bitcoin being moved around in October 2020 prior to the vertical rise. I see. Probably related to the ETF. It could be. I don't know, it could be seeding of ETFs, but that's a lot. It's $200 million worth. Could just be Binance moving around their cold storage coins, but I don't know why they do that. And it's not marked by whale alerts as a Binance address. It's this one, I think. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing. Could be seeing demand from like Asian treasury companies that are gonna buy some Litecoin, and they're funding a different wallet to do these OTC deals. But I'm not sure. Pretty sure this is Binance's like hot wallet they use. But it's like a lot of these, like there was a Litecoin address, I think it was Binance's, that held 4 million Litecoin, or yeah, around 4%, 5% of the supply before. So it appears less concentrated on the surface now. Oh, I see. Weekly candle close. What is it? Tuesday. So we've got 5 days to reverse here. It is a bit like historically this is kind of normal where the major equity indexes break out before Bitcoin. It's happened quite a few times. It did happen 3 months before the election last year, where Bitcoin went sideways as equities made new all-time highs and then massively outperformed. I don't know, the correlation will change, but this just tells me there's a ton of money out there to potentially rotate the hype has been in gold and silver lately. But this could lose some steam. It is on a yearly TD9 reversal candle. Which historically has stalled, or at least caused a couple candle pullback. What about silver? I don't know, this chart looks super bullish. Like it hasn't even broken out yet. I'm paying attention to the Litecoin Doge chart. I think Dogecoin might fall here, but I think Litecoin's at least headed back to these range highs, which is 30+%, 40%. But Doge could just fall back to the lows. LTC against alts, wick down here into the previous lows. I don't know, all these pair charts to me look bullish for Litecoin. And we're at the lows. Yeah, it could be an OTC transaction, Luigi. What do I think about interest rates? My long-term view has been the same for multiple years. I think eventually the Fed loses control of rates. I think eventually has historically been the risk-free return, like US Treasuries, becomes more of a risk asset long-term. The only solution they have to force interest rates lower is money printing, but that causes inflation, and eventually, you know, you lose confidence in the Fed's ability to control inflation, and the bond market just takes control of rates. I think the end game has always been infinite QE. I don't know, this looks like a clean 5-wave move up and grinding sideways. I bet interest rates do come down as equities top out. And I think there will be rotation, at least short term, into US debt. But long term, I think it's super risky to loan the government money for 30 years. For 10 years even. If inflation is going to be well above whatever interest rate they're targeting and printing money to suppress the natural market rate of interest. Waiting for the positive feedback loop to kick in? Yeah, it's momentum game. It's been a narrative driven game. It's all been momentum, even Bitcoin. Momentum can't last forever. It's like fundamentals eventually are the only thing that matter. Whatever people are actually demanding to use. But I think we're still going to be in a... Like Litecoin should rally after breaking here, and if it breaks out to the extent Tony's thinking and that I've been thinking for a long time, yeah, it will just be momentum driven primarily. What's unique though about Litecoin is if we get a blow off in Bitcoin and we get these high fee levels, Litecoin likely passes BTC in transactions, and if people finally see that when Litecoin price is rallying along with stealing more market share from BTC, the narrative can flip pretty fast. Yeah. Basically from what's been popular as like the idea that Bitcoin will be this global reserve currency thing, to no, Bitcoin actually is just a money, competes in the permissionless market, black market, and it scales horizontally. That narrative change is huge. And I know it's coming eventually. Like, people will price it based on its realistic long-term potential monetization level. Right now it's just so wild, people don't know how it works, so you have calls for it like swallowing the whole world's money and competing with other stores of value like real estate, but that's silly because real estate should be priced based on, you know, some sort of discounted cash flows where you can generate in rent. Bitcoin only is a money, it's not. In order to be a store of value long term and not just like this narrative game, has to be monetized. Like, if it's not, and you're just relying totally on that meme of store of value, if price goes down, there's nothing to hold belief. Like, you have to find buyers, and it must be people who actually demand it over everything else that is competing with in the market for money. So, just ignore what people say about it and understand what it is. Is the best recipe for success. Well, look at this 3-month chart. We're like right back at the point that is capped price for a long time, right? In 2023 and 2024 and 2024, actually twice, the start and end of the year, and now we're retesting it from the top side. But historical volatility is at all-time lows. I don't know, if you look at this chart, does this look bearish, right? If you take the full price history into consideration, no, this, like, if you didn't know what the asset was, I think you'd lean pretty bullish. I wish we could see Litecoin's real adjusted transaction volume and put it on this chart, because it has moved up. But the potential is to go 10x in total transactions and maybe 10x in average size of those transactions, and then it's justifiably 100x. You know, like, Litecoin can achieve 100x in real monetary growth. It doesn't need any hype or institutional salesman promoting it. Over a long enough time frame, it can get there on its own, competing on its own merits. What's up, Vivachi? Let's show some strength here. Let's see if these ETF flows can actually be significant when it gets approved. This literally is next week now, right? It's next Thursday. That's 9 days away. It's just gonna be competing against everything else. I mean, if these ETF buyers just diversify equally into all the altcoin ETFs, Litecoin will pump. Because it's so tiny and it hasn't broken out yet, so supply is more restricted. And then you'll start to see concentration into it. The first ETF is supposed to be October 2nd, but they might just approve all of them at the same time to not give a fair, unfair advantage to just one issuer. Who knows? I don't know what. It's impossible, I think, to predict what government bodies do or don't do. You have to rely on the people who work in that space. And they say like 95% approval odds for Litecoin. Which makes sense because it's the same thing as Bitcoin. It's no different. The only other difference is MWeb. I noticed it's still growing. People holding coins in MWeb has grown quite a bit. Up to 188,000 LTC. It's up 10x, grow another 10x. So yeah, we're getting close. If you look at the Heikin-Ashi candles, the compression looks more extreme. I think Litecoin tops out. Somewhere between 2 and 20K. Yo, PD. What's up? What do we look at next? I was showing people this when less people were actually in here. But wave basis was accurate here at the top, calling for a deeper wave 2 pullback. I remember ignoring it, thinking this was likely to break higher, but didn't. It was right. And then again here at the recent highs, wanted this to break out. Thought this was the moment of truth, whether it's going to break up or down. Nick was correct, and so is wave basis, calling for another move. The correction could be over. This low could be in, or we could have another leg down, but based off of this, it's forecasting low is in, and it just takes the 1618 extension for price targets. It's targeting like 250 to 275. Although usually these moves are extended, especially if this is corrected, nested wave 1-2-1-2 type setup, right? If it's basically taking, yeah, the 1618 here at 285, but I think it gets extended, breaks the all-time highs, maybe comes back and retests, and another move higher, but that's exactly what Doge did. Right? It actually rallied all the way to this 3618. If you take the same, ignoring the wick, like range high level that it's rejected from here and then rejected from again in late 2020. Kind of what Litecoin did March of 24 and now again in September. Almost the same time distance. 150 days. So like literally the same move would be to come to all-time highs, retest 271, and then go to the 3618 at 2K. Yeah, what baffles you is the current market not valuing Litecoin given its fundamental value. Yeah, if you think about this market though, it's totally meme and narrative driven, and there hasn't been any headlines. It's been purposely ignored. I thought the story, right, you have a competing narrative here with Bitcoin only, and that's suffocating the capital. Just, there's no search interest in Litecoin. I thought Litecoin being this fastest growing proof of work chain would be a big story. And it was. Like, Litecoin doubled, everything else went sideways or down, including Doge and Bitcoin Cash. So it is the fastest growing proof of work chain, and the demand catalyst is obvious. It will continue to happen if demand for Bitcoin increases. It's just going to keep going up, and eventually the market will figure that out. The caveat is that if, you know, demand for Bitcoin security model doesn't increase, then Litecoin can stay going sideways for a long time, unless speculative demand pushes it up. But what's crazy to me is everyone's marketing Bitcoin as the greatest technology ever, and assuming the demand for it will never happen. I just say it's like the Lightning Network argument. Like, we'll just all use Lightning Network, never use Bitcoin. Now they're doing the same thing on the institutional side. Like, we'll just let banks issue Bitcoin. It's the greatest technology ever, but people never actually want it. We'll just convince them that they should trust us. But Bitcoin can't work that way, right? Those credit layers are vulnerable to being shut off by governments. But this is the way it will work, and the speculative market has to figure that out at some point. And I think they will. Narratives are lagging indicators. Right, 4-year cycles weren't a thing until they stopped being a thing. I remember, because I've been staring at this market since 2016. Everyone thought this wouldn't be a couple-year bear market. Everyone thought Bitcoin was headed to 100K, actually here at like 14K. Then we had COVID. People were extremely bearish, even though they were printing all this money. And then even though it was exactly 4 years from the prior high, everyone was calling for 100K here into the next year. And then you saw popularization of the 4-year cycle theory. Now it's going longer. And then for Bitcoin specifically, it wasn't ever considered a store of value. Until really like way after 2017 highs. So I think the narrative that Litecoin is the second Bitcoin chain or dominant Bitcoin chain, these things play out, will happen. It's just that doesn't proliferate at all. Litecoin was a test net here, even though it's gaining real monetary adoption. It was still considered a test net, even though it you know, started really rapidly increasing in monetization in 2021. And now it's the most relevant it's ever been, and people think it's useless. They'll laugh at you. But I know, like, even the Litecoin community didn't know it was this another Bitcoin chain until recently. Took me a long time to convince everyone that it was a Bitcoin substitute or a second Bitcoin. But I'm pretty confident that the market will reprice this asset and totally change their worldview on what Bitcoin is. Have to. It has to get to the truth. You only see 90% or more of Litecoin that's been mined. The price is really cheap. Yeah, the block subsidy is going to keep decreasing if transactional demand keeps increasing. Price should. That's why I think it can explode here. Partially, as part of the reason, because miners have dumped a lot of supply. A lot of the weekends have chased other things. So really, you just have long-term holders and people relying on the network now. So if you get institutional type adoption or speculation, on top of that, it'll balloon. SEC approved Litecoin futures. I mean, the Litecoin futures have been trading on Coinbase for a long time. I don't know how long, maybe a year. But for quite some time. Nice. Human being, you're in here jamming out in your Les Paul. My brother just got a new guitar. Yeah, well-informed investor would put bet on Litecoin, implying a higher price. Yeah, true, but no, this market is the most meme, silly casino we've ever seen in like human history. It's partially because we're at the end of a long-term credit cycle where this massive inflation has just turned markets into a popularity contest. There's real fundamental valuation metrics that the people managing money and equities look at for companies, but in crypto or in the money space, it's like historically been hard for humans to understand how to price various monies. There's not very many good valuation frameworks, and price momentum is extremely convincing for everyone, especially institutional types. It's just how human psychology works, and it's hard to see a bubble when it's just been reinflated multiple times. People don't think it's a bubble, they think it's going up forever, because it has gone up forever since it was launched. But I view it as a popularity contest in a giant everything bubble that has an easy to understand, saleable narrative, but that narrative is at odds with reality. And I know if it's going to actually be demanded for, not like a meme coin that you just get rich from by buying it on Coinbase, because that doesn't do anything for you, really. Trading it on Coinbase, you're not getting any value from it, you're just getting exposure to the price. There is an inherent value prop that can be demanded. And if we really see a market form, it'll look so different than it does today. I don't know, humans follow each other. And we're at extremes. Not just in financial markets, like broadly across like cultures. Reality is weird right now. If I was to guess, overlaying Dogecoin, you think the next month is green? Yeah, that's what I would guess. If I had to guess, I was thinking that either we got a pullback here, or this was going to continue higher. You see front running of the ETF, potential launch, and then given that it's pretty liquid, once it breaks out, you'll get momentum. But with the broader market pulling back, Litecoin also dumped. But yeah, I'd have to guess this next month would be green. I mean, we're starting a new quarterly candle. This will be a Q4. Maybe we can close above after retesting this from the top side. 105, 106. And then get an explosive Q4 and maybe Q1 of 2026. Yeah, if OnlyFans is accepting Litecoin MWeb, that would be pretty big. They should. They have to be like legally compliant, and it's pretty hard for them to do that with crypto. It like introduces so much more risk to their business. 94, shoot. I mean, I don't know. The 1618 is at like $93. So if we get another leg down, sure. It's also the close to the 618 like retracement level off of this move. So maybe. This is decent support though. This 105 to like 190, yeah, $94 level. I'm sure there's a lot of buyers looking at this range that are interested. We can check the Litecoin Binance heat map. Let's look at 3-day. There could be range manipulation, take both sides of this liquidity on the short-term time frame. Yeah, Bitcoin dominance is pump. I mean, Ben Cowan was calling for that. But I don't know. It's not something I would bet on at this stage. Bitcoin dominance is such a weird metric to me. It's almost like a ETH BTC chart, and I'm just more bullish proof of work, the proof of work and privacy side of this market, and bearish all the proof of stake stuff. I don't think there's much of a long-term market there. The government can shut off all of that stuff if it wants. So my view is Bitcoin dominance against other proof of work alts goes down a ton, from like 97% to 20% over the next decade. And then proof of work dominance over proof of stake dominance climbs. I wish this had the complete price history. What almost no one would make money in is if Litecoin just consistently climbed for multiple years. And got to 30K in a decade. What's up, Dewey? How's it going? Luigi, you think XRP up only because the people see the price and not the market cap? Yeah, that's how silly this market is. I think that's partially the reason why a lot of these coins are priced the way they are. I think it's the unit bias, right? There's a reason why they all chose these huge supply numbers, like Cardano, right? It's 81 cents. Charles knew that. There's this unit bias. XRP, yeah, I mean, they have a lot of marketing and money to lobby in the political realm, and that in the short term can pay, create a lot of hype. If you That's partially why the administration was pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin. They received a lot of money from donations from a lot of these cryptocurrency holders, like whales. Well, Litecoin doesn't have that, so it has to compete on its own merits. Even Bitcoin Cash had a lot of money behind it and marketing. No, I mean, yeah, historically, on your question, true, the tweet about 4-year cycles not being a thing. I mean, it wasn't recognized, is what I mean. Like, it definitely followed a 4-year cycle, but nobody was saying that in 2017. Nobody's calling for a correction here for 4 years and another top. And nobody's calling for, I mean, the psychology wasn't baked in. The pattern happened multiple times before everyone expected 4-year cycles. I mean, I was out of Bitcoin in this time, but I was hated on. Everyone thought it was going to 100K. Like like 95% of the people I talked to. There's only a few. They got baited after breaking the highs here in November and held all the way down. I'm just making the argument that once everyone recognizes a pattern, it's not true anymore. So it's been 4 years was November 24. And Bitcoin's made new highs. I also think the inflation charts, like the M2 charts versus Bitcoin, are gonna break as well. Those weren't popular at all back here or here. It's only recognized at the end. Like that's why I was bullish down here and was convincing my friends to get exposure to crypto, is because I thought we'd have another reinflationary cycle, despite what the Fed was saying at the time, raising rates, and everyone was super scared, thinking bear market. I thought there'd be these stealth QE programs, and there's a lot of money out there, that once price started going up, people would get convinced. And now everyone's talking about how, you know, inflation is going to continue, and that means asset prices are going to go up. But it's after the move already happened. People are just recognizing that. So I think we're close to the end. It's a little bit different because I think this is the end of a longer term credit cycle, so you should get a blow off. It's already kind of starting here with equities. We just haven't seen rotation yet in the small caps. But the Russell 2000 looks like altcoins. It's coming here shortly. It's just, there's so much dilution, so many coins out there that most coins are way off their highs. But capital should concentrate into the few winners, and Litecoin's the only thing really winning this whole cycle. Even though the price hasn't moved, it's the only thing growing, at least on the proof of work side. Bitcoin isn't growing in adoption that will lead to longer term higher prices. It's just moving on memes, like Sailor buying a shit ton and convincing a lot of people to buy it. Is there a dominant theory on the 2 million Litecoin move recently from Binance? No. But I know their volume was way lower than their volume on the exchange that day was like $90 million. And they moved 200 million. So I think it's most likely an internal transfer or some OTC deal. It's not labeled by whale alert. What is the second largest? Or now it's the third largest address. It came from this Binance wallet. I don't know. They moved a lot of Litecoin this year. They moved 1 million here, 1.5 million. May 31st. And actually moved 2.4 million, $250 million worth. I don't know. Only Binance knows. I don't think there's that much liquidity there for someone to buy $200 million worth of Litecoin. Maybe. I mean, I guess Luxfolio bought 100 million at like 107. Created a lot of noise on X because the transaction fee was 0. Yeah. I don't necessarily like that marketing because it's only true for a certain amount of time when blocks aren't full. It's like a lot of people advertise, oh, like I saw Eric Trump or one of the Trump kids talking about, I could move 500 million on Bitcoin for like $1, and I don't need permission. It's like, one, there's just very low demand to use Bitcoin right now, that's why it's that cheap. And then two, it's not really permissionless like you think. The market not gonna learn how this works until it's forced to. But Litecoin should always be cheaper than Bitcoin. It still has capacity to move up 10x in daily transactions before fees even start to climb. But it works the same as Bitcoin. It will become expensive at some point if demand is high enough. But for now, yeah, it's good marketing. Could be Coinbase buying to prepare its ETF. I mean, if they're just seeding it, they wouldn't buy a bunch unless they themselves wanted to have like a Litecoin reserve. The seeding the ETF should be only a few $1,000,000. 45 minutes until this daily candle closes. Litecoin shorts increased on the drop yesterday on Bitfinex, and I don't know, longs look the same. I wish we could see minor reserves. It just doesn't exist anymore. Where'd all the Caspa people go? This looks horrible. I don't know what else to talk about, friends. The target for the Adam and Eve pattern on the daily for Litecoin? I don't even really see it. Adam and Eve is like a sharp bottom and then a rounded structure. I guess you can consider this kind of an Adam and Eve, but I wouldn't. I just think this is choppy, like correction style. Consolidation. This kind of looks like a head and shoulders top, but I think it'll fail. On-balance volume still looks pretty healthy. It's somewhat divergent. Had the same here. Have your spotlight coin took some calls on Lits. That's a good date, March 2026. Need to check if Tony bolded his weekly Litecoin tweet. I like him. It's just been hard. I think from anyone who's looked at Litecoin's technical structure on the high time frames can see that it's in this compressed volatility for an extended period of time. Usually the rule is the longer the base, like the higher this goes. Just because all the supply is worked through. I don't know, every possible metric you look at on higher time frames looks bullish if the underlying fundamental thesis is correct. You could have an asset that's useless that slowly trails off in search interest and goes sideways forever and then just dumps because it's worthless and going to zero. But it's the exact opposite for Litecoin, and assuming the trend holds, assuming Bitcoin's not just a meme and actually is the protocol that people use for permissionless money, which it has the lead still, then Litecoin will succeed. We haven't seen any other protocol like Monero or any of these privacy coins to compete with the Bitcoin security model. What's been most successful has been Bitcoin's design, and then so successful that you needed a second one in Litecoin, and it passed everything else. So I'm just assuming the trend will continue here. Yeah, I don't know. There's just way more inflation. Yeah, if Bitcoin falls here and the S&P 500 does fall, then it'd be hard for Litecoin outside of some weird demand catalyst for LTC, but it looks like we're moving into the parabolic stage of S&P 500. Litecoin really just needs to gain some momentum. If it sees decent ETF flows, then it will appreciate faster than Bitcoin, and then you can see just diversification. It can start rallying on its own once it has some attention. Yeah. Well, Tony's been decently. I think he made quite a bit of money this cycle. He caught some of the major moves. No technical analyst is going to be super great. They might have a hot streak where they get a lot of attention and then end up being wrong for a period of time. But the people who make the most money in markets are the entrepreneurial types, not the TA guys. The people who made the most money in Bitcoin were the people who saw it before there was even a price chart. So I would never put technical analysis first. I think understanding is the most important part. Understanding how it works and the context of where you could see this market sector grow. Yeah, Tony used a lot of different indicators. I just keep it simple. I know we stare at the chart a lot, but I'm not. It's not the number one thing. It's more like third or fourth. I'd say sentiment versus the truth of what this fundamentally is are the two most important things. What is it? MSTR? This kind of looks weaker than Bitcoin here, but doesn't really look like a top. Not a blow off, at least. It did tag the 1618. This kind of reminds me of the Litecoin chart, to be honest. Just over a much longer time frame. Or this is much shorter time frame. Litecoin's much longer. Similar. The same fib extension would be like Litecoin to 1800. What was this company before? Is this like... This is crazy. Is this real? This is the right chart. Or did they just start? Confused. Did it really drop 99.9%? And this is like their Hail Mary? Market. Insane though. Look at the 6-month chart. Alright guys, what do we do? What's new in the crypto land today? Incredible pointing out this inverse head and shoulders. Stablecoin issuances. Still going vertical. Dollar might be putting in a bottom. The more similar chart is XRP. Yeah, I just think XRP looks different, like less bullish on the higher time frames, even though Litecoin hasn't broken out yet. The most bullish breakouts in crypto history for altcoins. I don't even consider Litecoin an altcoin, but for previous alts have always erupted out of the, after consolidating for a long time, you know, well below the all-time highs. Like Dogecoin mostly consolidated below, you know, more than 80% below its prior 2017 all-time high. So that 2-3 year period before it broke out, just grinded along the bottom. And it was the same here with XRP. And it was kind of the same with Bitcoin in 2015. It had a, before its strongest cycle ever, really, in 2017. It's been a long time. You're gonna have to delete your lines. They didn't hold up, Nick. Nick, come on here real quick. I have like another hour before I have to leave. We've got a decent amount of people in here. You should draw some new lines on the charts for us. I can't believe how many people are complaining about Bitcoin and shouting manipulation when it's up at 112K and it's only like 8% off the all-time high. It's insane to me. Literally gone up more than anything really ever for such a consistent amount of time. It's being pumped with massive leverage. People are saying it didn't go up enough. Gonna have. Oh, I just read that. They're fine. Just want to reassess possible downside risk. I see. Well, yeah, it seems like it either reverses here or it's gonna make one more lower low towards 100K. Like 99K at this. Seems reasonable if it does break. I can't believe how little is this. Can't be the actual accurate Binance volume. The volume has really trailed off here. On the retail side. Alright, I'll wait for you, sir. We'll wait for Nick for a sec. For now, we'll just zoom in on the lower time frames here for Litecoin. Watch it go sideways. What's up? Reauthorize? How's it going, sir? We're waiting for. Oh, I need to send Nick a link. I gotta create the room real fast. Title it. That's a good title. Alright, inviting you. Here you go. Should be able to join. And I'll add you. We're just watching the lines on the chart. But this is like interesting, super low volatility on the 15-minute chart for Litecoin versus other ones like BTC. It's going pretty good. It's going all right. I think our whole community here has been waiting for this higher time frame breakout, and it's been exhausting. I have a lot less Litecoin than I thought I would at this stage. But this is what the market likes to do. Max pain. Well, let me check and see. If Nick got this. Alright, Nick, we've got the audience for you. I know this stream's a little bit delayed. But I think that link should work. So, Nick's been really accurate of late with his short-term technical analysis. Let's see if the final lineup here comes to fruition, or maybe he changed his mind. Oh, he's in here. One sec. Let me add this. Can you hear me on here, Nick? I can't hear you. Let me double check my settings. Yeah, I think it's good. Make this box bigger. Alright guys, we're getting Nick's stuff set up here. For some reason I can't hear him. Oh, he left. I'll try back. Yeah, Nick has been on point for a lot of points in this cycle. He thinks Litecoin's not gonna get the, I think, like the bigger, higher time frame move out of this range. Which obviously it's always possible, but that we don't get the higher time frame expansion I've been thinking. But it's just Litecoin's so tiny relative to everything else. And it has a better fundamental story. And we're seeing blow-offs and lots of other assets. Okay, let's see. I have your... I see you in here now. Maybe I can change it. It says... I can change your microphone. Let's try this. I don't know what's happening. Frick. It might be me, but I just created this room. This happened with Tony for like 2 seconds, but I had my audio source wrong. Yeah, I can hear the test thing. I can add your screen. Maybe I could hear you through... the scene? Actually, I don't think that'll work. Turn your mic all the way up. Maybe now? Oh, I can hear you now. Nick.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me add you here. I don't know why that happened. It just randomly started.
Your audio mic, sirs.
Okay, your screen's on here now, so we can see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we should be able. They should be able to hear you too.
Okay.
I'll turn down the
All right.
music. What's up? How's it going? How's Oregon?
It's good. I actually went golfing today. So I took my daughter. Because my wife still has to work. That's actually why I have the whole computer up here.
Oh, I see.
But it's been going pretty good.
Nice. She's working up in Oregon? Or she work remote?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, she works from the computer. She works for a credit card processing company.
Oh, I see. Nice. Well, cool. Thanks for coming in here. So you were accurate with this move down. You still think we're gonna bottom here, or you think it's gonna take some time?
Yeah, so I thought we weren't gonna top here at the top of this channel where we topped. I thought we were gonna go up to, what is this, like 119, and then I thought we were gonna dump down to about 113, somewhere around in this range, 113, 112. We topped at the channel, so 117, so it was a bit weaker, and then we came back a bit deeper. So all of it kind of caught me by surprise. Like, I guess I was expecting the down trace, but I was expecting more strength beforehand. So I feel like on times like these, I want to say like, oh, I got like a general bit of the move. But ultimately I feel like my read was off, even though it kind of did a lot of what I thought it was going to do. I feel like my read's off, so I'm not as confident to say, yeah, we for sure bottomed. But I'd say right now, from the little bit of time I spent last night doing it, I would say that's basically what I think.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I'm just going to delete. We'll just do everything real quick. I'm just going to delete everything. And then we'll kind of start over. Now, I'm not going to have any of my stuff I had before, but
yeah,
it's all good.
oh, that's good. watch you do it. I think sometimes it's more beneficial. See your thought process in real time.
Yeah, I think most of what I was using before on that chart, the reason why there were so many lines is because I was using mainly a lot of different pitchforks. But then last night I added fibs and some other things. So I did that wrong. So is your general consensus that most people weren't expecting this move down?
I follow very few people now for like technical analysis. I was like 50-50. I thought like my overall view was that Bitcoin was going to close that CME gap at like 117, 118, really like 117, and it did that. And then I thought it was a moment of decision whether it was going to continue up or break down. I was sort of 50-50, but the people I followed for technical analysis, most of them were thinking a pullback was likely. It's really like you, X-Force, Credible. I don't really pay attention to many technical analysts, to be honest. And my own, I had no conviction. I was just 50-50. But I do think eventually we're going to break to the upside, in Litecoin at least. That's my only bias. But short term, it's so hard.
Yeah, it is hard. I feel like I had a pretty good read going, but we could hold, like what I thought we could still hold here. I'd expect, like, without pulling it up on my chart, I'd expect like short term, we try to regain whatever I said. I think it was like 113.5. We try to regain that soon and kind of battle that for the weekly candle, because that's where, if the weekly candle is able to close above like 113.5, then it still looks good for continuation. But if it doesn't look good. And then so ultimately I think the whole reason why I was trying to rechart, because everything I said before about what I expected was on Twitter, like if we have bullish continuation, but if we don't, then it's probably something more on the lines of something I'm looking for now, which is something I was going to do later, but let's see. Yeah, I was pulling stuff up last night and it was just like we hit like this current resistance that we hit. We hit a bunch of different resistances at the same time.
And
then it's kind of has like a shallow floor. Turn that off. So basically, like, we've been holding this midterm, hit a big resistance, and then we have a shallow floor there, and then we have basically this big support, which is that pitchfork. If not, then it's this. But I don't know. It's the same kind of thing where it was ultimately, what is it, it's 95 to 97 is what's possible if we do rip back. So hang on, let me remove a bunch of stuff again and try to find more influence. Here we go to fibs.
I just noticed you have that line drawn through the 2021 top. I didn't really see that, but yeah, it is. If it breaks up above that.
Oh, you talking about that? Like when I had the fib up?
Yeah, or just, I didn't realize from 2021 we've been like bumping up against that like ascending trend line.
Yeah. I mean, that's, what was it? Beginning of last year is where we had that large retracement off that and kind of consolidated, then bumped up, and then basically went as low as we can go without testing that high from March. I think we wicked right above it, right on support. Yeah, I mean, it's like we really didn't get this big move. We got this big move off the lows, and then we got a consolidation above you know, say 21, and same thing, 21, the double top, and then we got consolidation against it, broke down a little lower, came up, basically tested like an ascending support above it without basically knocking. I'm sure in some exchanges we tested the high again and then broke back up and hit that same resistance, and now we're consolidating or possibly breaking down. We really haven't gotten much. I feel like that's why we haven't gotten like an alt season. You know, I feel like if we did get an alt season, maybe it was in October of last year. I don't know if alts went then, but that's basically when people thought it might happen. And then since then, it's like we came back up, tapping around, and we're still tapping around. So I don't know if, when Bitcoin's kind of moving up like this, it's like, when are we going to get alt season?
Yeah, true. I don't think we are gonna get a broad-based altcoin rally. There's way too many
coins.
Too many coins, and too many coins with no real long-term value prop. Just so, I mean, like, the whole proof of work side of the market has gone sideways for a long time. Every single chain. The only one that's grown is Litecoin. But even that's not enough to do much for price. So it's, yeah, I think if Bitcoin does break above that trend line that's capped price since 2021, we could get pretty large scale rotation, but
yeah, I don't know. See, even this, it looks like we're still fine, but it's just like any other point on the weekly where we got above, hit resistance, kind of held, consolidated, had a lot of volatility, finally broke down, came up, had a little fake breakdown. I mean, if we look at, oh shoot, without getting into detail about what I'm doing too much, but just looking at what the support and resistance I pull, you can see this line has been kind of the line in the sand since the end of last year. Hang on, I'm using the back of a notepad for my mouse.
I see.
So I'm gonna have to do like a streak. You can see it's the same, and then you can see how many wicks we've had at or below before breaking down. A lot of wicks, and then we had a big fake breakdown, and the same thing, a little breakdown, and we're kind of been grinding that higher. And so it's still, I mean, how many times people probably thought we were going to break down in this region? Then we did, and that was the big scare last year. And then again this summer, the beginning of the summer, we had a little fake breakdown again, and then we finally broke higher, and then we had a little fake breakdown again, and now we're still coming into that range, basically, where I would expect, if we want to stay bullish, I mean, technically it's still a higher low off 76, and support, it still could run down. God, it could still run down to 90, or let's say 98, 100, and I think that's what a lot of people are expecting. But I'm still gonna go with my short-term read I had, even though I wasn't perfect per se. Where basically I'd pull more important price action, probably just based on this. So here, let me remove this stuff. But I don't know, I'm still not ready to say, oh, it's about to break down and we're about to see 100 or 98 or that area of support. I think a lot of people are probably looking for this area between 98 and 100, or I know some people are looking at 102. I wouldn't throw in the towel yet on any of that stuff, especially considering I was kind of already expecting the retrace. I just wasn't exactly perfect on it, and that's okay. If I do that, I bet we broke out of this little stupid thing already. Sorry. I bet this is too steep to hold. I bet we broke down. Yeah. That basically, once we broke that little bit of channel, when we got this horrible last couple days, but that's not really important. I mean, that's like the micro time frame that we've had. Charts from May till July, and that's how we got the coordinates. And then since then, we never. It's just been weeks since then, so you could say the summer weakness we just broke, and now we got to pull. It's like this. No, this is gonna be unfortunate though. Oh shoot! I'm sorry, I pulled the wrong one.
You're good.
I did this fast. I know you gotta take off soon.
Oh no, I have till like 9, so I got like an hour.
Okay.
So I'm good for a bit.
All right, I'm trying to figure this out together.
Yeah, no, it's good because, like, honestly, my favorite teacher of all time was like in 9th grade, and he wouldn't have. He might, like, he would purposely not solve problems in math class before he came, and then work through it in class. Some people.
So you can see the process.
Yeah, and even if he messed up or whatever, nobody cared. You'd learn way more from him that way.
I mean, even that doesn't look that good for pulling that, because then it's no good. I mean, that just points more at 103 and then opens up the lower price at 98 and stuff, so that's also not looking good.
Yeah, well, the 1618, like, if you pull the, like, correction, the
Is it
low
a
to
fib
high,
extension or just...
yeah, like the fib extension is right at like 98. If this is going to
Yeah, it's the
correct
same,
further.
or similar to what I pull. So let's do this one, the more important one. Let's see where we're at with that. Oh, same thing. Look at that. We broke right off the median. That's what I was saying last night. Pulled up so many different little resistances that we broke up off, you know? It's the same on this channel where we broke down off that. Oh, let's see. You think the quarter or the 75 is going to line up at 108 or 98? No. It's about 102 if we broke down from that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff I'm pulling up is pointing lower.
Yeah, the structure doesn't look, I don't know, it doesn't look that bullish, just naked price action. But it's weird. It looks like it's losing momentum here. Every impulse or move higher seems less strong, but it could just be like
it's
contracting.
Been like that though, right?
Yeah, it has been.
I mean, it's kind of been flattening out. Yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna go ahead and go with what I thought. Like I said, hang on, the AirPod fell out. I'm still going with what I thought with my short-term read, but at the same time, I mean, I'm continuously pulling up bearish stuff. Original time. Now it gets hard to see anything. It's just... So yeah, I mean, I just pulled up more resistance, more support that lines up around to 103, 104, and down here. And I don't know. It's hard too because I can pull up, while we rejected that resistance, I can still pull up what I said earlier, where basically we've been kind of rounded. It looks like everything was about to break down and it didn't. We just kind of rounded out. So I guess it's kind of difficult to read. I was going to say, I guess what we're watching for now is some type of support to hold below this and a higher low than 107. I wouldn't want to do this, but it's possible. Kind of go like that.
Yeah, and you also have the like horizontal level right where it's at right now. That was
Yeah.
resistance back in May for a while and broke above, kind of deviated below and came back above. Now it's retesting it, so could be. It's hard. It seems 50-50 to me whether this level holds and we see continuation or whether it breaks down to 100K.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say shorter term. That's cool. Not daily. Yeah, let's pull up. It's probably whatever I looked at when I charted with you last. Same. That stupid resistance.
I
We
know.
weren't able to break. And then
There's just not enough.
that broke. This is kind of waking. Let's see. Basically trying to hold the 25% level on this. If not, then it's kind of what did I say? I said a while back. It was before we got this move up. I said it on Twitter, something that like Litecoin still looks good in the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it still look, you know what I mean? And right now, if we get further, like Bitcoin does go to 102 or say 98, that level, then it looks like that's where we're going to try to find support. It's basically 90, high 80s region, which I sure hope is not the case, but ultimately it's this. Just a stupid thing, even though it's so annoying that you can just draw a line from here to here and Litecoin won't be able to break it, you know?
I know it. It seems like the like simplest.
TA just seems to work out well.
Yeah, it would have worked. Yeah. It's been rough. I mean, Tony was thinking we probably would see ETF front running and maybe this just breaks higher, but
That's kind of what the other ETFs did, right? Front running and
yeah, it is what happened. I mean, Bitcoin, I don't know, it like wicked above the range highs, lows, but then it had its strongest rally, like its highest in percentage terms over the shortest time period, right after that ETF approval or the following few months.
yeah, look how nice that looks though. Is that $90? $91? That looks really good and logical that we hit that. I don't know. The more I'm charting, the more I'm getting bearish. So I don't know. I'd like to say that it was a bear trap and that we will hold what I was looking for before. But if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know many people that would take trades here.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't in any trades, I wouldn't be looking to make a trade until this region down here, you know.
Yeah.
We can hold, like I said. I mean, initially I was hoping that we'd come down and do similar price action, and most people would probably be thinking it's over, like what people think right now and what I'm thinking when I'm looking at the charts. And then we'd have that a big acceleration higher. Maybe it's also I can't. I did that thing where I basically can't reach my drawing tools. But here, I'm gonna zoom in. So if I was to draw a box here, basically from 103 to the high of 133, we basically flush that box. This is still a point where if there is front running leading into it. Well, when is it? I think I was listening. Did you say it's next Thursday?
The ETF, yeah.
October 2nd? Yeah. Maybe this is just the bear trap flush right before, and then we wick out here, move up, and same thing with Bitcoin, and then we continue higher. But I feel like every time I'm on here and I'm saying like best case scenario,
Yeah, it doesn't
it never
happen.
happens.
Well, I know that's the hard thing is like I I've always had a longer view and think eventually this will lead to expansion. But you can seem wrong for so many times when it fails at resistance that it's hard to, you know, hard to think it's going to be this time when it's over and over again that it fails. But I kind of the way I see this ETF thing is there's not many people broadly outside of the narrow altcoin communities that are focusing on these ETFs. And I think the ETF flows for altcoins, and I've thought this for a long time, would surprise people to the upside. We talked about it even months ago, but how the Litecoin ETF might do better than the market's like anticipating because of the potential silver narrative or
Right.
longer term fundamental growth that they might pay attention to. So I think it's more compelling to that capital if it's, you know, been waiting to get exposure to the cryptocurrency markets. You kind of even saw it with the grayscale products. I mean, LTCN was like outperformed XRP, even though it's a small market and it's pretty illiquid, but it did. Even though Litecoin didn't go anywhere,
Yeah.
LTCN went up 10x. So I think it flows will surprise the market to the upside, and then if that happens, we'll get the breakout, and we know how momentum drives further momentum, or higher prices drive higher demand. And there's a lot of money there. So yeah, it's hard to keep saying the same thing over and over and failing, but I think eventually it breaks. We'll just have to see how strong that move is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much sums it up, because like I said, either you could draw basically a little box around this and we basically hardly flush the low. Maybe we flush the low a little bit more. What is this low? Like 103.43. And we barely wicked out just below it. So maybe we get a little bit more of a scare and flush below a little bit more. And then that's it. And then we front run into the ETF, get the ETF approval, and then it's on to higher prices. But that would also, excuse me, we'd have to see that follow through in Bitcoin. Like my chart I did earlier. I can't pull it back without closing my screen. The chart that we did in Bitcoin, like basically this was same thing, a bear flush where everyone thought it was over. I basically said like FOMC good, and I thought we'd get a little bit more run from 117 to 119, and then we get the flush, and then now where everyone's bearish, you know, and they're saying, oh, the FOMC is bad or whatever. I'm not personally seeing much people talk about the FOMC stuff. Thought we'd see more, but also I've hardly been on Twitter. But basically I was trying to say sentiment was going to be over the top, and then sentiment was going to be in the dumps, and I'd say that's pretty on par to what we're doing right now. But sometimes if I'm not like almost exactly right, then I get worried about my whole read. So since we didn't get kind of like the exuberant rally into 119 and we held 117, which is generally weaker, and we kind of ran the support a little harder. It's either like my support resistance are wrong, or it's just generally weaker than I anticipated. So maybe we get the flush, like I said, and we get say 92, 88, whatever, like that range for Litecoin, and then Bitcoin and everything else flushes that. What was it? Basically like 98. Is that what we're saying? 98 to
Yeah,
100.
yeah,
Okay.
98 to like 102.
I'd say that's the most likely scenario, but if this is kind of what I was expecting and I was just a little off, then this is basically like a bear trap, and we're about to, continue higher next week. So but like I said, it's both. There's chances both things happen,
For
but
sure.
I would put more weight. Yeah, I'd put more weight that for a deeper retrace.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
we'll see.
for sure. Yeah, thanks for your updated read. I think it's weird. I'll share my screen for a sec if I can move this up. If you can even see mine.
I can on my phone. I think it's just delayed.
Oh, it should be in the video thing. Is it in here?
No, you know what? It's frozen on. Change your.
What's that? Oh, it muted you, I think. I don't know what happened. I can't hear Nick anymore. I lost your audio. I lost Nick's audio randomly. Maybe. Yeah, we can see my screen. I moved it above his. His is still here. What? What the heck? I'll wait for Nick to come back. I don't know what happened. It shows him still in the room, but it shows like camera muted. Yeah, I don't know. It looks stronger than it did back here. Like the market was much more frothy late last year, early this year. Price immediately bounced from this level quite strongly. Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
This is kind of what's happening in Bitcoin if you just draw these like horizontals. Struggled to break above it, cleared it, like deviated below, now it's retesting. But it's very similar to Litecoin, although Litecoin never came below this horizontal. But to me it looks stronger than back here. Price pulled back lower in percent terms and it took longer, right? This price retraced like 40% in a short amount of time. And leverage was, much more extreme back here. Open interest is down quite a bit. Funding rates are below neutral. We've almost returned to baseline levels of leverage here. And search interest is like super low. So I don't know. I think there's a decent chance this level holds since it's holding temporarily. Now, and we're kind of at the bottom against a lot of these pairs. I know you don't really look at pair charts, but like on this LTC against alts or LTC ETH, even LTC BTC, we're at like pretty major support levels.
Okay.
And potentially on LTC ETH, this is like an inverse head and shoulders with a like descending neckline. Whoops.
I see what you're kind of saying, like
But
similar formation.
these horizontal levels have been pretty significant in Litecoin's past price action, right? It's like right where it held, but price was descending really fast and making significant lower highs back here in 2017. Held above a bit in 2021, and then it capped price for like 2 years here, and price didn't maintain above this level for very long at all. This is the longest price has held above 105 in a long time. So I don't know, and it's with less euphoria, less interest. So it's really, I think, just a lack of buy side demand, but we are seeing like Litecoin treasury companies like come in.
It it's like almost like it's been being accumulated, but it just hasn't had the follow through for the actual breakout.
Yeah, and on the higher time frame charts, it looks more bullish to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like significant higher low.
On Bitcoin, we could be having like I guess we could be having like a megaphone pattern, unless that's
yeah. You could show. I could pull up your screen again. It's probably a new link. Let me add it again. What happened? Oh, there it is. Yeah, we have your chart now.
Okay. These are flip extensions from there. Yeah, I don't know. Same thing, kind of like what I was saying before. I was just trying to pull something. Like we do have a flush lower. I basically pulled the fib, which is a fib extension from August of last year to the highs in January to the lows in April. And if I run that out, you can see we came up, pretty much rallied hard all the way up to the 50, came down, bounced around on the 3.8, and then had a flush up to 3.8. And then since then we moved to 6.18, wicked, couldn't break it, wicked, tried to hold, had a fake out lower. And you can say like if this is basically, we're starting to form somewhat of like a megaphone pattern here. We came up, couldn't hold above the median, came down, and basically now if we're looking for support, it could be coming anywhere. Now it could be slightly lower in the 110 range or whatever, and it's just kind of basically a fake breakdown. So and then the megaphone pattern obviously comes up, and it's usually a breakout. Let's see, turn this off. If this is truly a megaphone pattern, like I said, I wouldn't say this is high probability. I'm just kind of pulling stuff. It is a megaphone. Sorry, I ran out of mouse already. It's gonna be ugly.
That's all good.
And we could have that rip higher.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Breakout above. It usually breaks above new test goes, but I mean, there's a lot worse patterns for this July. For the past couple months, almost few months, 2-3 months, you can say this is somewhat of a bullish continuation pattern. It's possible that it is. If that's the case, it's still possible to sweep lower, but it's unlikely that we sweep these lows and keep going. I wouldn't say that's ideal to have a megaphone pattern and spend so much time on the bottom end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we get equal taps, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But yeah, I'll just leave with this. I'd say optimistically, again, like I said, this is basically a bear trap, and it is working out like what I thought short term, just a little off. And we get continuation higher, and same thing where Litecoin, we don't get that breakdown to the low 90s, and in Bitcoin, we don't get this breakdown to the high 98 to 100 area. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's still early in the week, so like I said initially, from what I checked before, I believe it's 113.5 is what I wanted to hold, and it's basically, I don't know if I could pull it up. Oh, this looks a lot nicer on the 1 hour, these lines. But anyways, from what I checked before, because I don't feel like trying to figure it out, what resistances and what supports I had before and what time frame I was pulling it. But I know what it was. Let's finish it off. It was this daily candle, whatever we had on this daily candle. Right there. So 113.38. We basically want to get above there on the weekly and close above there. So I would expect, whether it's now or when we slightly flush lower, I would expect that ultimately at some point this week, we do retrace back up to higher than yesterday's high, to give the weekly a shot at holding above 113.5. So I'd say a high probability, I give that a high probability. But whether short term, I'm not pulling up the 1 hour and going all the way down, but I'd say it's possible that we run 111 before doing that, or we do it now. But I'd say ultimately, since it's so early in the week, we do try to do that, because that would be bullish. And then if we get a weekly close above that, that'd be bullish.
Gotcha. Do you think the longer this consolidates sideways at this level, the more bearish it is? Like if it fails to
like if
if we just go sideways and close below 113 on the weekly, you lean bearish if that happens?
yeah, I would say, given my recent read on the market, I'd say that I'm optimistically bullish. But I'd say already, if I'm just looking at the charts and longer term support and resistances, I'm already kind of leaning towards that range, the high 90s, 100. I think that's higher probability. So I'd already say higher probability is that we go lower, but I'm sticking with my initial read and thinking that we hold, and this is just a bear trap. And hopefully next week, Litecoin gets ETF approval, and we rally up, and we get Bitcoin to hold support as well. Then I'd say it's really good conditions for their upside.
Sweet. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. I think your analysis has been really good. We'll see, I guess. Yeah, we'll just, within a week or so, we'll know.
I'd say, if we're going off every time I've come on here and I give the optimistic case, I'd say it's definitely higher probability we run below 100, and then whatever that is for Litecoin, what I was saying, was it like 92, high 80s? That's where my gut's at. But I'll be optimistic and say my read was maybe just a little bit off, because then if I add in that my read was a little bit off, and usually when that happens, it's enough for me to be overly cautious and then expect a break of my read to continue. I think everything leans towards lower, but we'll just be optimistic like we always kind of leave it at.
Alright. Sounds good. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Even though you're not at home, but thanks for sharing your updated thoughts.
Yeah, it was good to have on.
Alright. Well, enjoy the rest of your time over there. I don't know how long. When are you coming back to your home base?
Saturday morning we're leaving, and so it's I think if I drive straight without stopping, it's like 13 or 14 hours, and we normally stop a few times.
So it's like 15, 16 hours. I think we got up here in 15 hours. So at least Saturday early, just leave at like hopefully 4 a.m. And then hopefully we get home around
Like 6, 7.
6 p.m. or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, I've taken a lot of road trips. I kind of hate it. Sometimes it's okay, but driving like up the coast is kind of fun in California if you are driving that way. I guess you're not really like right along the coast, but I've always enjoyed driving like on Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah, no, we don't spend much. We spend majority of the time on the 5 and then from the 5 to the 101, and we spend a lot of time on the 101. Like this is technically we're just right off the 101, and then today we went to Bandon. There's a good golf course there called Bandon Dunes. They have a bunch. It's like a resort. They have a bunch of courses. I brought my daughter up, and we walked one of the par 3 courses.
Oh, sweet.
So
nice. Well,
it's a good time.
you'll have I guess you got 4 more days to explore around there. That's cool. Are you working too, or are you just basically on vacation?
No, I'm not working.
Okay.
I'm on vacation. Yeah.
Nice.
No, my wife wasn't supposed to have to work, but then basically she works for a small company, and a couple people went on leave, family leave, that having babies. Like 2 different dudes had babies.
I see.
So she ended up having to work, and if we canceled, it would have been an issue because my daughter had school off already set up and all sorts of stuff. So we just went with it.
I see. Well, that sucks, but enjoy the rest of your
Yeah.
time. And yeah, if you still want to start the other channel, I'm down to do it like once a week.
Oh yeah, I'm down. Yeah, we could try to get like see if I could actually get anyone to go on it at first, you know?
Most people are pretty open, I think, if they know you somewhat. I think you'd be surprised that
Hopefully.
they'd be down.
Yeah, I'm down. We'll talk more about it.
Okay, yeah, when you get back, we'll figure it out.
All right. All right, man. Sounds
sweet,
good.
Nick. Have a good night.
Later.
See ya.
Thank you. You too.
Alright, guys. Thanks to Nick for coming on here. I just noticed, though, like the same type of structures repeating on the lower time frames for Bitcoin, where it was at last year. Failed to break this high. Came down, retested this descending lower trend line like 3 times. Done it twice here, so definitely space to come down to where we were talking about. Litecoin just looks a little bit stronger on the dollar pair because unlike BTC, it never broke these lows and it's held above. Whereas Bitcoin ran the lows and is now retesting them. So support already sort of failed. You could call it like a deviation and reclaim. It's hard to know. Literally impossible to know. But lower time frame, like CMF values are trending higher. This probably does bounce at least a little bit. I think Litecoin looks way more bullish though. Yeah, Litecoin just needs some momentum while Bitcoin chops around. I think as long as nothing is crashing, there's not a bunch of leverage being liquidated. Once we break out on the higher time frames, momentum can be quite powerful. If Litecoin starts breaking up when Bitcoin's doing nothing, or if Litecoin appreciates fast and Bitcoin, which should happen at some point, you'll convince more and more people. Like the higher it goes, the more velocity this high time frame breakout has, the more demand you're going to see come in. We just need the spark. I've got about 20 minutes before I have to go. Why can't I hear my music? I think you guys can hear it, but I can't. Now I can. It's weird. You guys want to watch Sailor comedy clips? You can check out what Sailor have been posting. I hate just like hating on, rather just ignore them. Cause anytime I see, I didn't watch this.
Sheet. That's according to
I don't like
Bitcoin
just
Treasuries
speaking
.net.
negatively.
Strategy is the largest, the most prominent this week, meeting with policymakers.
Something like 78% of the entire United States for about $40 million over the past 100 years or so. So I think the United States ought to own a large part of cyberspace, and Bitcoin is the next frontier.
What does it do to prices, especially as they've been chopping sideways, even coming off a little bit recently?
You know, I think the real story in Bitcoin right now is corporate adoption. We've got a consistent acquisition of Bitcoin by the big ETFs like BlackRock, and that's taking up all the natural supply, and they're doing that on behalf of institutional investors. But these 180 companies that are capitalizing on Bitcoin are buying even more than the natural supply being created by the miners, and they're putting upward pressure on the price. And I think that as we work through the resistance of late and some macro headwinds, we'll actually see Bitcoin start to move up smartly again toward the end of the year.
At the beginning of this year, you and I in January sat down, had an hour-plus conversation at the ICR conference about this very idea, Bitcoin Treasury, what you were doing in strategy, and at what point do you think it starts to accelerate if it does?
Well, I think you've got two types of companies. You've got operating companies that would otherwise be returning their capital via dividends and buybacks, or they would just be holding low-yielding money markets. And they're choosing Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, so that actually improves their capital structure. It's 100 years. The world's going to run on digital gold-backed credit for the next 300 years. So treasury companies, in essence, are holding digital capital and creating digital credit instruments on top of that digital capital. And there's, of course, a huge demand for equity and credit instruments in traditional capital markets. And Bitcoin is emerging as the ideal form of digital capital to back those instruments.
Yeah, and I want to dig into that a little deeper here, Michael. But first, I mean, gold's having a huge run right now too. It's depth. So how to think about that analogy in this environment?
JP Morgan said gold is money, everything else is credit. This morning I said Bitcoin is money, everything else is credit. The success of gold is indicative of the demand of mainstream investors to have a bearer instrument that's a long-term store of value, that's not a currency derivative and doesn't have counterparty risk to a corporation. Gold fits that bill. Bitcoin fits that bill even better, and it's sort of got the digital upside. You know, you can't teleport gold, and you can't program gold to vibrate at 1,000,000 times a second on a computer. So Bitcoin is the technology version of gold. It's digital gold. It's going to be, in my opinion, 10x bigger than gold, but they're the same idea.
How do you compare that to Ethereum, which investors seem to be very hot on, and we're starting to see and then just a few minutes ago, headline.
Okay, but there was our Sailor dose of Michael Saylor for the day. I think Michael Saylor is really close to getting it, but Not quite there yet. There's like one or two disagreements. The core assumptions I think he's making that are wrong. One is like, yeah, there may be demand in the future if this is monetized to a greater extent for credit, but not unproductive credit that just fuels further speculation. I think that's silly to compare to traditional credit instruments, where you make loans to someone that's going to go out and produce stuff. But I agree with him. Bitcoin, I think, Bitcoin as in all Bitcoin chains, have one thing gold doesn't. You can't, if you really want to transact outside of governments with gold, you have to do it peer-to-peer. There's a large cost in assaying the gold or verifying the authenticity. It's just, the analogy people get wrong is that Bitcoin is like gold. It's not. Like, the only similarity to Bitcoin and gold is that they're market-based monies. The main difference is that Bitcoin's unique to all other market-based monies in that it's a decentralized network where cost rises with demand. So it's natively digital, which is an advantage, but it's not scalable like gold is. That's the disadvantage. People tend to associate digital networks with like infinite scalability. And if you're gonna say it's going to scale through centralized credit layers, like, that's not a very secure idea, because the one institution that you're trying to challenge can just shut it off instantly. Right? If it actually penetrates the market and there are real credit instruments built on Bitcoin and the state doesn't like it because it's competing with their ability to tax, they'll just make it useless. They just say, okay, we apply a 20% tax to all Bitcoin transactions, or whatever else they want to do to make it more expensive to use Bitcoin than their money. And the whole reason people would use Bitcoin over their money is because it's less expensive. But that's the one thing they don't understand. They assume that governments will roll over, bend over, and just give up their main tool of power and control. And they say, hey, look, like, all the governments are embracing Bitcoin. They're not embracing Bitcoin. They're embracing the casino that's being built. Bitcoin does not threaten them at all in its current state. If they can enclose and capture it within the casino market and tell you that it, we'll just issue this new money on top of Bitcoin and you guys all accept it through bank credit layers, and you can dilute the entire supply. You can change the 21 million limit and extract tax that way. That's what they did with gold. That's why it didn't work. So, yeah, I mean, I don't get why you can't make that next step and realize, hey, betting on politics securing Bitcoin is not betting on Bitcoin at all. Right? Just invent a new political money then. If it's politically popular to have Bitcoin, it's much cheaper to just vote for a new state money where they won't print it. But that's not what's popular. It's popular to print money. It's popular to keep increasing government spending. There's nothing that's going to change that. It's going to actually force people at the individual level to reject all of this tax. And that's where demand for Bitcoin will increase, and that's why multiple Bitcoin chains will emerge. I don't think governments will ever embrace Bitcoin like Michael Saylor's talking about. Or else they already would have done it. The only thing people you're seeing embrace the speculative casino Bitcoin bets are zombie companies that don't have any other business model that are comfortable with taking this high risk and buying Bitcoin at these prices. Or like failing governments that decided to throw a Hail Mary, like El Salvador, and put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Right, the incentives aren't aligned for the biggest nations in the world to try to take on that risk and buy Bitcoin if they have no fundamental use for it, if it's competing with their own money. He's like so close to understanding, I think. It's just I'm betting on decentralized markets. He's betting on centralized political control with this BTC meme coin underneath. If they give stablecoins to US citizens, that would be insane. Like stimmy checks through stablecoins, I'm sure it will happen. But it should just catalyze demand for stuff that isn't, you know, being printed. People trade their free stablecoins they get, just like airdrops of shitcoins. People trade them immediately for something else. What are my thoughts on the Litecoin strategy company? I don't know, it's kind of like the playbook for Michael Saylor, but I think it's a lot smarter to bet on something that's unpopular right now, that's consolidating here, if they have an exit strategy. It's speculation. It's just, I give credit to them because they're willing to look at fundamental growth. I don't know if they really see what I've been talking about, like the emergence of the second Bitcoin chain and where this can get rapidly repriced. And I don't know if they have the same long-term view of like this market naturally transitioning from a casino to really real-world utility and monetization. I don't know what their viewpoint is, but I think it's a lot smarter than following the herd into Bitcoin treasuries and buying BTC. Saylor's never once talked about Bitcoin's monetary growth, and everyone says adoption. Adoption to me shouldn't mean just buying it and speculating on the coin. It should mean people demanding it for its value prop, wanting to accept coin. Yeah, I think the Russell 2000 and Total 3 are big charts. I mean, once momentum starts in those, like, they're gonna move much faster on a percentage basis. And in a market totally driven on inflation and momentum, once that breakout occurs, like, you're not gonna want to hold the majors that have already outperformed. And the Russell 2000 against the S&P 500 is like at lows not seen for 25 years. Trump coin. That's doing well. They want to use idle reserves to issue stablecoins, which they will give to U.S. citizens. Yeah, I mean, it's like a way to inject another middleman to rake profits, or you can give people stablecoins, which are like credit on top of credit, where if they're using your stablecoin and getting no interest, you're collecting a small amount on the back end, whoever's issuing them. It's just, there's no way, I feel like there's no way to make money on that. The people making money on that are the issuers of the stablecoin. Like Tether's made so much money. But really all the demand for stablecoins is just the growth in the level of speculation on cryptocurrency. We haven't seen it proliferate outside of the crypto exchanges. And I think it's extremely risky. I'd rather have dollars in a bank account or just physical dollars, mainly physical dollars over stablecoins, even though I can't really use them digitally. There's just more layers of risk there. It's like you have the bank risk, like whoever's issuing the stablecoin has a bank account with dollars in it. Maybe the underlying bank has problems, but then maybe the stablecoin issuer spends the money on something else. I don't know, on operating expenses or whatever. They can spend the money from the bank account and say you have a stablecoin, but when you go to redeem it for the dollars, it's not there. You're just adding more people in between you and your money. Nice if staking was available. Well, yeah, you can already lend your Litecoin some places. I just wouldn't lend any coin to anyone until there's a productive credit market built around the token itself, until it's monetized to a greater extent, which I don't think will happen until decentralized exchanges proliferate and it's easier for people to interact with crypto. Then you should naturally see lending markets develop, more sustainable lending rather than just people taking your Litecoin and then using it to speculate. And they have a high chance of blowing up, like we saw with BlockFi and a lot of these coin lenders. Alright guys, it's almost time for me to go here. But I appreciate you hanging out. Thanks Aztec for coming in here. Still gotta get you on. We can talk about LitVM. I'm interested in it, because I don't know much about it. I've always been cautious towards credit markets, layer 2s, especially when they're advertised as the same thing as the money, like Lightning Network was, when it really was a money substitute. So I'm interested in how the protocol works and the security trade-offs made, and then as well as like what projects Or how it's even going to be imagined to be utilized. I do think it can stir up a lot of hype though, right? Like we've seen that happen with the ICOs, the NFTs, the other layer 2s. But yeah, it's exciting. It's nice that there's finally smarter people involved. Now that have good marketing skills and that have been here for a while. Yeah, that's what you meant, like an official website to stake. I would just, I don't know, I'd be super cautious. Unless you know where the yield's coming from. If it sounds high relative to current yield out there, I mean average cost of capital or historical returns like 10%. If it's anything above that, you're probably the yield they're farming. Last single check, shorter time frames. I don't know, Litecoin looks more bullish here, even on these short term time frames. It did run a lot lower than everything else on that initial sell-off. But if this wave basis idea is correct, this was larger Elliott wave 1, 2. And then a smaller degree wave 2. It should be time. It's a matter of when, right? This can chop around sideways, but if that impulse starts here when the ETFs are launched, I hope you guys are ready for the spotlight. Alright guys, we'll leave it at that. Should be an interesting next few days. Thanks for coming. We're getting better viewership in here. Now I'll probably end this stream because I wasn't recording the full time. And start it again for anyone that wants to hang out in the ambient stuff. But I want to keep records for people to come back and watch them if they missed the original live stream. But yeah, have a good night guys. Patience will pay. See you all tomorrow. Alright, thanks for coming, Aztec. Thanks, NBK, Unmechanized, John. Good to see you back here. Peace out, everyone.